Yeah, but because you just join me up and you get to go. Because I'll tell you.
This guy with Jimmy's office, he's also the National Security Advisor for the Senators.
Jimmy is not on our list.
No, that was an extra one that I.
Oh, I got it. If you're gonna go do that because you probably want to take an extra folder to leave.
Yeah.
To leave behind.
Our first appointment's at 10:30.
I'm organizing events because we don't have an assignment.
So 10:30, you want
So I'm
to go
organizing.
together?
She wants to visit some
Altogether.
people that she visited last year.
Because I was thinking of just going to all the Washington ones. It turns out we only have 3 out of our 10.
Yeah, so I'm organizing. First, I'm gonna tell her all the ones that we visited last year that haven't signed on, so we could drop back by and say we're back.
Hans Johnson.
Second floor. Going up.
Okay, Georgia. Now, we did see the senator this morning, but we don't have any indication. Jackie. Hi, I'm Bill Chen. We're here to see Jackie. We're here a little early, but
But before General Bill started, I just want to say General Bill is a 2-star U.S. Army retired. Yes, the first Chinese American. Yeah, so yes.
to be a major general in the U.S. Army.
Yeah, in the U.S. Army. That's incredible.
We're here to talk to you about H.R. 2358, which was introduced last year in May. And this is for the award of the Congressional Gold Medal to Chinese American veterans of World War II. And so it started in May. It was introduced by Ed Royce and also Ted Lieu. And on the Senate side, there's a corresponding Senate bill. And so far on the Senate side, we have 46 co-sponsors. On the House side, we have, what is it? 86. 86. So we still, no, we need 2/3 to get, out of the committee. So that's a big number, like 290. And so we'd like to ask your help to get your boss to co-sign.
Okay.
And the background on this is that during World War II, Chinese Americans served. Some of them were drafted, they volunteered, but they served in spite of the fact that there was still the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. And with the Chinese Exclusion Act that began in 1882, there was no immigration, there was no citizenship for these immigrants, and they couldn't bring families over. So actually of the population back then, a lot of them were all males. So it's a high percentage of those that served. And then my view, of course, is that when you look at the history of Chinese Americans here in the US, the first major contribution was building the Transcontinental Railroad. And so at Promontory Point, Utah, in May of 1869 was when that spike was driven. The second major contribution was all the Chinese Americans that served in World War II, because they helped to open up opportunities post-World War II for Chinese Americans to be a part of mainstream America. Before that, Chinese Americans were isolated in Chinatowns across the country, some in rural areas. They really weren't that well known to the American public until they served together with others in World War II. And so, for example, my father was born in the United States. He was a pilot in the Army Air Corps in World War II.
My uncle was Army Air Corps in China. He served in the theater, China theater.
Yeah. And then, my view is they paved the way for follow-on generations like myself, where I was able to serve and fortunate enough. I was in Vietnam, 2 tours, one in South Vietnam, one in Laos. And it made it easier for us then to, be promoted and whatnot. So we'd like to ask for your help then in asking that your boss co-sponsor this bill.
Okay, well, I'll read through it and I'll talk to him about it.
Yeah. And the timing of this is also critical because the Chinese Exclusion Act was repealed in December of 1943. So the war was still going on, and this year in December marks the 75th anniversary. So it would be great as part of that anniversary celebration to have the Congressional Gold Medal approved.
Yeah, your boss co-sponsor both the Filipino Congressional Gold Medal and the
Daniel research.
Yeah, great, great. So, and we look upon this as a no-brainer. Hopefully it's, you know, from your perspective too, it's also bipartisan.
I was going to ask.
Right.
You said that the original co-sponsor or the original sponsors are bipartisan. Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely, both on the Senate side and the House side.
That's fantastic.
And this is a leave behind for you, and it shows the list of all those that
Co-sponsors,
have co-sponsored.
Okay.
So we really want to pass this bill so that we can pass this, wonderful news to our next generation, and that they can learn more from their forefather of serving the U.S.
Okay.
And this morning we went to visit Senator Isaacson's office, so hopefully he can also co-sponsor.
Oh yeah. Wow, you guys have been all over.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
so
your
much
time,
coming in.
and nice meeting you. Right.
Nice meeting you too, and
Nice
thank you for your
meeting you.
service.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
So great to
Thank
meet you.
Nice meeting you as well.
Well, thank you for your time. I know we have some constituents in Missouri, in St. Louis, as a matter of fact, that belong to our organization.
Okay.
Chinese American Citizens Alliance, so no worries there. But the main reason we're here for our organization, Chinese American Citizens Alliance, is to make the Congressman aware of a bill that we've introduced a year ago. Mm-hmm. It's the in the House, it's H.R. 2358.
Okay.
It's the Chinese American World War II Veterans Congressional Gold Medal Act. So that pretty much tells you everything about the bill. So it's pretty simple. And we're going to leave you that packet of information that has a lot of background, has a copy of the bill, has current co-sponsors already on the bill. In the House, we have 85 of the 290 that we need.
Yes.
So we need 2/3, so we're at 85. On the Senate side, we have 46 of 67. So we're much further along there, and that's kind of where our target has been the last several months. Starting about a month ago, we started going to the House side more, and we're kind of working our way across the country from west to east and kind of north to south. So Missouri's kind of in the middle, so we're kind of right there right now where we are. One of the things about the bill on the House side is co-sponsored. The major co-sponsors are Congressman Ted Lieu from California on the Democrat side. On the Republican side is Ed Royce. Yes. I don't know if you're aware, but Congressman Royce is retiring at the end of the year. So
It's also chairman of Foreign Affairs.
Chairman of Foreign, exactly. You got it. And even though I'm not from Taiwan or the Far East originally, that's been one of his main things he's been involved with. So the other thing is he's very active in his district, I know, with honoring veterans.
Sure.
And so this would be, I guess I'd call it, for lack of a better word, his legacy bill going out the door. And he and his staff have made clear to volunteers like us as we walk the Hill is that he's going to do everything he can to move this bill forward. Julie, I think, considering the time, we're trying to get this whole thing in the 115th Congress before he retires.
Sure.
As well as the fact that our World War II veterans are passing away quickly, literally every day. So to honor them, he's going to try to work the Hill himself, pretty much work the floor.
Sure.
Not only with dear colleague letters, but actually doing the work on the floor.
Yeah.
Doing the handshake.
They do that often.
That's probably what's going to happen with this bill. So You know, Camille's got a good story. That's
My
another
father.
one. That's her father.
Oh, wonderful. He fought in World War II. And during that particular time, the Chinese were not permitted to go to public school. So they had to start these Chinese churches so that they would have the opportunity to bring in teachers to teach them so that they could have an education. So my dad actually had to travel and live in the church from Monday through Friday, then go home and work at the grocery store. So even though they weren't given rights, per se, they still felt that they wanted to serve their country. And many of the Chinese, even all of his brothers, his cousins, his uncles, they all joined up. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I think statistically, what do we
So
have
I think
in
we
there?
have about, there were about 88 Chinese Americans who signed up to join the service in World War II in the state of Missouri. But we don't have the information on how many of those Chinese Americans are still alive. So we're working on that. We had some good leads from one of the other staffers, so we're going to check on those.
Okay. It's hard to get that information because you just don't know where they
Yeah,
live.
especially with the fire in St. Louis with the NARA. Yeah.
And I do want to say General John Pershing did bring 527 Chinese from Mexico and brought them actually into New Mexico, and then they were 427 were shipped to San Antonio to help build what they call Camp Travis, which is now Fort Sam Houston, and then they were able to go out and send them out to different forts to help build those to get ready for World War I.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So he was very beloved.
Yeah. Well, he's a Missouri native. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second half of our project is not only to educate individuals about this, the effort, none of Chinese Americans, but actually to find them all. Because across the country, we've been combing a lot of different resources to find everyone, so that eventually, when this bill does pass, gets signed into law, we'll be able to find them and bring and honor them with these ceremonies. So across the country, we've been doing all these ceremonies for the Filipino groups, and so it's pretty impressive. I don't know if you've seen any of the ceremonies for that. They had them here, you know, when they had the big ceremony back in October. I think.
Yeah, when they have the Congressional Gold Medal ceremonies, it's usually big blah in the Capitol Visitor Center that they have. So they'll kind of let us know like these will be closed at this time. So yeah.
And they've been doing across the country too, just to try to localize it. So you know, clearly, whatever ones that we find in Missouri, we'll try to have a kind of a centralized location and invite some of our retired Chinese American generals. We've actually located quite a few. In fact, 2 of them are walking the hill with us, who are retired now. Yeah. So they've decided this is a good thing because many of them served under these guys as well in some capacity.
Sure.
So we think that's going to be a plus to help us. But there's a copy of the bill. It has some individuals. Someone asked a question: is there any specifics about Chinese Americans where they serve? And there are some specific references of that in there. Most did not serve in a specific regiment like that. There's one that was a Signal Corps group.
Okay.
As opposed to like you're probably familiar with the 446th Regiment of Japanese Americans that serve in one area. Chinese Americans are generally deployed across all branches.
Sure.
One guy in Houston was served in the European theater when several served in the Pacific. And one guy who served in the European theater, he was a photographer, did recon, which, what do you think he ended up doing for a living? Photography.
Yeah.
So the military training does good for some.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm sure he got tired of flying from an airplane taking these pictures, but that's what he became. He's still a productive guy today.
Yeah.
96 years old.
Wow.
He's doing pretty well. So
That's amazing.
But do you think there's any opposition we haven't seen opposition yet for this? This is one of those bills that we think everyone.
I haven't seen any. We rarely do gold medal bills run into any kind of opposition. If they do, there's usually a very specific reason for it. But I haven't seen or would think of any.
Yeah, the only thing we've heard is if there's someone else who is presenting their own gold medal bill, that someone would not necessarily sign on to today, but they wouldn't oppose it if ours came on.
Yeah, because there's a lot of them out there. So
that's what I've heard.
They usually are in competition with each other for floor time. So But the fact that you have a chairman who's retiring as the main co-sponsor of this, I wouldn't be surprised if leadership kind of throws him this as like a going away gift, I guess. So that sometimes happens with retiring members or retiring chairman as like a reward for just being a soldier.
Yeah, being chairman of the committee for so long, he deserves that too.
Big time.
But is there anything else we can do? Answer any questions?
No,
Please.
these are pretty self-explanatory. I'll read through the text and see if there's anything that may be of a concern to us, but I don't think that there will be.
And as you know, the text is going to be rewritten in terms of trying to get consistency between the two bills. Right now, the two bills read the same, but a couple of our historians have decided to look at the bills. They're having us re-change some of the language in terms of it is. So don't worry, there'll be a few little rewrites of the bill just to get the consistent language together. But there's nothing in great error, if you will.
Yeah, well, so whichever house it passes out of, what they'll probably do is, if it does pass through either the Senate or the House, they'll strip the original language and engross it with the new language and send it back to the other house. So that's done often. So we'll keep it.
Anticipating coming out of the Senate first.
Okay.
Senate first. Definitely have it coming out of the Senate.
Okay, cool. So they'll
we're close there.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
Absolutely. Thanks
it.
for coming by. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
stopping
Julie.
by.
Appreciate your help.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a good rest
Thank
of your
you.
day.
No, Mitch. Massachusetts ought
Should be easy, easier.
Okay.
Or to use your public office for private gain. It's the ego run amok. And certainly, your job is not to weaken and unravel by bedrock environmental laws that were put in place by both Republicans and Democrats alike. They come before the committee with an indefensible budget proposal. You're trailing a string of ethical lapses and controversies. They're an embarrassment to the agency, an embarrassment to Republicans and Democrats alike. Just make you a laughing stock and your agency a laughing stock. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lane.
So there were some 20,000 that served. They were either drafted or volunteered. At that time, the population in the U.S. was 100,000. So that's a sizable percentage of those that served. And this was during the time of the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. So that was still in place. Discrimination aspects where immigrants couldn't become citizens, they couldn't vote, and yet they volunteered and served. And so we look upon the Congressional Gold Medal as recognition for that during the time, particularly because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. The Exclusion Act was repealed in December of 1943. And this year, the end of the year marks the 75th anniversary of that repeal. So that would be a great celebration to
Very
have
historic milestone.
celebrate the repeal as well as award of the Congressional Gold Medal. Now currently we have 46 senators that have co-sponsored.
Yeah, in February we came and do a different more appointments, and we were able to meet with the staffer for Senator Sanders, and he loves our Congressional Gold Medal, and
You
she's
meet
just
Matt?
signed on.
Excellent.
He signed on right away. Yeah.
That's
So
excellent.
we really thank him for doing that. Yeah.
Senator Tim King also signed on.
Oh, good.
But Warner, we're still waiting for his.
Yeah.
Mark Warner has signed.
Trying to get those.
Yeah.
And then the last Congressional Gold Medal that was approved was the Filipino American.
I remember that one.
Congressional Gold Medal.
And the Japanese.
And the Japanese, and so others have gotten like Navajo Indian Cold Breakers, Tuskegee Airmen, and so these are all minority groups that
faced
during that period faced some
great racism, and still fought.
And you folks have been great supporters of that sort of idea and theme before.
So we'd like to ask if you could get your boss to co-sign.
I'll put it in front of him. I suspect he'll feel very warmly towards signing on. As you've mentioned, he's seen, in his lifetime, the huge advances that have been made. I think he recognizes that there's still more work to be done, but he sees folks like these Chinese American veterans who were
like
really
in my case,
the groundbreakers.
My grandfather immigrated. He worked on the railroad, Southern Pacific Railroad, from California to El Paso, Texas. My father and uncles were veterans in World War II, and so they really helped open up opportunities for all Asian Americans to be a part of the American mainstream.
And you slammed through that door, right? The 2 stars, you made it through and have really continued that.
Right.
Well, good.
This is a leave behind for you, and it's got a fact sheet, but more importantly, the
list of
co-sponsors,
right.
both on the Senate side and the House side. So
Well,
maybe in
wonderful.
another week or a couple weeks, I could follow up with you.
I would love that. I would love if you check back for me.
Right.
That way we'll give some
We
time.
need to
put
get
some
all
senator.
the members from New England to
That's right.
co-sponsor.
That's right. We all got to stand
Well,
together.
we have the 2 senators from Massachusetts,
Mhm.
the representative from my district.
Excellent.
So that's great.
And
We want to certainly pattern our historical demographics, the number of Chinese Americans in early time already present in especially the urban areas.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, Chinese Americans end up in just about everywhere.
Yeah.
Those restaurants, groceries, or whatever just proliferated even east of the Mississippi.
And to that end, can I ask a little bit of a research project from you all?
Sure.
Can you find me some Vermonters as well that I can make sure to put in front of him also?
Okay.
So I can point out, and then perhaps we can do something back in the state as we connect to people.
Well, what we plan to do once this is approved is that we'll have ceremonies at each of the locations where there are veterans and their families. We'll have a special ceremony. We'll invite the congressman who participated in helping to get the award, and then have a ceremony and public affairs event.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and actually,
Sounds great.
my cousin actually, they are couples and they have doctors and they live in Vermont.
Wonderful.
Yes, definitely sure that they
I'd
will
love
support in any
I'd love
ways.
to know a little bit about the story of their veteran as well. It's always
Okay.
I like to say the Senate runs on anecdotes in many ways, and when you can what's that old truth that they always say, the most powerful words in politics are "let me tell you a story."
Yeah.
And so I want to also make sure I can always tell the story about a Vermonter that had a connection,
Yeah,
and
we
whether it's a Vermonter himself or who served, or just the family of who now lives in Vermont, and they can talk about their grandfather, and how that plays out.
Sure. Yeah,
So,
we definitely can do research on that and get back
Thank
to
you.
you.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
I appreciate that. I'm always looking for that human core.
Right.
So,
Okay, well, very good. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's
Yeah.
great to meet you, Jim.
Nice meeting you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice meeting you. So can we check it off as a yes or it's still a maybe?
Well, probably.
I think it's a yes.
High probability,
Yeah.
right.
จริง